Imagine this. You're standing in the wreckage of your worst day, the phone call has come, the job is gone, someone you love just walked out, and nothing, absolutely nothing, is certain anymore. What do you do next? You don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your level of training, and that, right there, is where mental toughness begins. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world that wants to insulate us from discomfort, shield us from hardship, and convince us that fragility is a virtue, but that illusion collapses the moment life punches you in the mouth. And it will. Mental toughness is not a motivational slogan. It is a discipline, a structure, and a philosophy of survival and transcendence. And today, I will give you 4 hard truths, 4 keys, not for avoiding suffering, but for facing it head on and emerging stronger. Mental toughness begins the moment you stop blaming. The world is unjust. People will betray you. Systems will fail. But until you say, it's on me to confront it, fix it, or carry it, you remain a victim, and victims stay weak. Toughness is not the denial of pain. It's the decision to shoulder it. It's in the man who loses everything and still wakes up at 5 a.m. to rebuild. It's in the woman who's been crushed but shows up again for her children, her work, her future. You don't build resilience by being spared the fire. You build it by walking through the fire voluntarily. A mentally tough person is not free from chaos. They've learned to order it. Your mind is a battlefield. Thoughts of doubt, fear, guilt, they swarm in uninvited. You must sort them, discipline them, and name them, because if you don't rule your mind, something else will. Start with the simplest thing, clean your room. Organize your day, speak the truth. If you can't control the little domains, how will you ever conquer the storms? Order is not control. It is the framework that allows you to endure hell without becoming it. Comfort breeds weakness. That's not opinion. It's a biological fact. We are evolved for adversity, yet modern life is saturated with ease. Dopamine hits, instant validation, constant escape. Mental toughness grows when you choose discomfort. Wake up earlier than you want, say the hard thing, do the thing you fear, lift heavier, go further. You become anti-fragile when you pursue controlled suffering, because if you can choose discomfort voluntarily, you won't be destroyed by it when it comes uninvited. If you want to endure, you must know why. Pain without purpose is torture. Pain in pursuit of meaning, that's transformation. Find your North Star. It can be your family, your mission, your principles. Write it down, speak it aloud, because when life becomes unbearable, and it will, you will need something immovable to stand on. Mental toughness is not just endurance. It is endurance in service of something greater than yourself. So I leave you with this: do not pray for an easy life. Pray for the strength to endure a difficult one, and to do so with dignity, clarity, and purpose. Mental toughness is not born in comfort. It is forged in adversity. And the next time life knocks you to the ground, stand up, look it in the eye, and say, "You hit hard, but I'm still here, and I'm not done yet. Thank you." Would you like this adapted for a specific audience, students, professionals, athletes, etc.? Or want a version with anecdotes or quotes woven in? Mental toughness begins the moment you stop blaming. That may sound simple, even cliché, but it is the most brutal and transformative truth you can internalize. As long as your suffering is someone else's fault, your parents, your boss, society, genetics, the economy, you are outsourcing your strength. You're giving away your agency to forces that do not care whether you live or die, let alone thrive. Responsibility is not about guilt. It's not saying everything that happens to you is your doing. Life is full of randomness, and tragedy does not always come with a reason. But mental toughness is built when you take ownership anyway, not because it's fair, but because it's necessary. The moment you say, "This is mine to deal with," you've taken the first real step toward power. You see this in people who have suffered immensely and still rise. The man who grows up in a broken home, surrounded by violence, who decides, "This cycle ends with me." Or the woman who's been lied to, betrayed, and left, who says, "I will not let this break my soul." That is not the result of inspiration. It is the result of responsibility. It is the moment you stop waiting for someone to come rescue you and you become your own savior. This is why people who coddle themselves fall apart under pressure. They've been trained to expect relief, not resilience. They've never developed the inner muscle of saying, "It's on me." When adversity hits, they look for someone to blame, someone to fix it, someone to make the pain stop. But that instinct kills strength. Mental toughness requires you to stand there bare, alone, hurting, and say, "Now what? What can I do?" This doesn't mean becoming emotionless or suppressing grief. It means feeling all of it and still choosing action. It's the decision to hold your suffering like a weight you're training under, not a burden you must escape. Because once you claim responsibility, you begin to transform. You stop seeing pain as punishment, and you start seeing it as fuel. Mental toughness is not about never breaking. It's about knowing that you can break and still rebuild, and the first brick in that rebuild is responsibility, chosen, not imposed. It is the moment you stop waiting and start carrying. That is where the real strength begins. Mental toughness is not simply about enduring hardship. It is about structuring your mind and life in such a way that you can face chaos without being consumed by it. Chaos is the default condition of the universe. It is entropy, disorder, unpredictability. And the truth most people never face is that it lives not just outside, but within. In your mind, your habits, your relationships, your impulses. If you don't deliberately bring order to it, it will swallow you whole. Most people live scattered lives, pulled in 1,000 directions by distraction, emotion, and unexamined desires. They react instead of act. They spiral in thought instead of decide. Their days are filled with noise, but devoid of clarity, and when crisis comes, when death visits, when betrayal happens, when everything collapses, they discover they are utterly unprepared. Why? Because they never trained themselves to bring order to the chaos. They thought they could ignore it, avoid it, maybe even escape it, but you can't. You can only face it and structure it, or be at its mercy. Mental toughness demands that you begin with what you can control. If your life is in shambles, start by cleaning your room. It sounds laughably small, but it's not. It's symbolic and deeply practical. When you order your immediate environment, you signal to your mind, "I can bring structure out of disorder." That signal matters more than you realize, because it builds momentum. You go from a clean room to a clean schedule. From a clean schedule to deliberate choices, from deliberate choices to a coherent identity. Most people are paralyzed not by problems too big, but by an overwhelming swarm of little problems they never handled. They don't know what they believe, what they want, or what they'll do next. They avoid silence because silence confronts them with how chaotic their minds really are. So they scroll, binge, distract, medicate. But the chaos doesn't go away, it grows in the dark. Mental toughness is about stepping into that darkness with a light in your hand. It's about sorting your thoughts, naming your fears, planning your actions. It's about refusing to be ruled by what you haven't examined. You don't need to control the world. You need to control yourself. And in doing so, you create a point of order in a world full of noise. That point is where strength begins. That is where resilience is born. Mental toughness cannot grow in comfort. Comfort is a liar. It tells you you're safe, fulfilled, and strong, when in truth, you are softening, dulling, and retreating from the very challenges that would make you formidable. You do not become mentally tough by indulging in ease. You become tough by voluntarily choosing the difficult path when an easier one is available. That decision, repeated daily, wires your mind for discipline, not indulgence. The human brain is built for adaptation. It becomes good at whatever it practices. If you practice avoidance, you become excellent at escaping discomfort. If you practice confrontation, facing pain, uncertainty, difficulty, you become excellent at enduring. Most people today are experts in the former. They avoid discomfort like it's toxic, but discomfort is not toxic. It's transformational if you engage with it intentionally. Mental toughness is forged through the pursuit of voluntary hardship. Waking up earlier than your body wants to, doing the workout when you'd rather rest, saying no to temptation when it would be easier to cave in, speaking the truth when it would be more comfortable to lie. Every one of these moments is an opportunity to train your mind, and training is the right word, because like a muscle, the mind grows only under stress and resistance. No stress, no growth. Comfort doesn't care about your potential. It only cares about your immediate pleasure, and that's why it is so seductive. It whispers, take it easy, when you should be pushing forward. It says, you've earned a break, when the truth is you've barely started. It rewards you with small dopamine spikes, screens, food, escape, while silently stealing your strength, your time, and your grit. But when you choose discomfort, you flip the script. You stop being prey to the world's chaos and become a willing participant in your own transformation. That doesn't mean suffering for the sake of it. It means seeking out difficulty that sharpens you, reading instead of scrolling, confronting instead of avoiding, doing what's right instead of what's easy. That kind of discomfort trains you to stand firm when real adversity hits. Because if you've never chosen discomfort on your own terms, you won't know how to endure it when it chooses you, and it will. Life will strip you bare. It will bring grief, failure, betrayal, loss. And in those moments, the only thing that will hold you together is what you built in the shadows, your habit of enduring pain with purpose. That is where mental toughness comes from, not the absence of hardship, but your deliberate exposure to it. Mental toughness cannot survive without meaning. You can endure almost any pain, almost any loss, almost any trial, if you believe it matters. If there is no meaning, though, even mild discomfort becomes unbearable. That's not poetic. It's psychological reality. Human beings are wired to suffer, yes, but we are not wired to suffer pointlessly. The moment you believe your suffering serves no purpose, you begin to collapse, mentally, emotionally, even physically. That collapse is not weakness. It's the soul's rebellion against emptiness. When you have meaning, everything changes. Pain becomes sacrifice, setbacks become lessons, discipline becomes devotion, and effort becomes worship, but meaning does not arrive on your doorstep. It is not handed to you by your culture, your job, or your relationships. Meaning is something you must go looking for. You must wrestle with it, construct it, commit to it. You must ask yourself, why am I doing this? What is worth enduring for? What could I build that justifies my suffering? Most people never ask those questions. They distract themselves instead. They drift from one temporary goal to another. Money, attention, comfort, none of which can survive hardship. When difficulty comes, those shallow goals burn up instantly. But meaning, true meaning, is fireproof. It becomes clearer under pressure. It reveals its strength when everything else falls away. That's why the people who endure the most pain often speak with the greatest clarity. They have passed through hell, and they've come back holding something precious, the knowledge of why they kept going. Your meaning does not have to be grand. It just has to be real. It could be your family. A personal mission, a principle, an idea of who you could become if you didn't quit. Whatever it is, you must define it, you must articulate it, you must revisit it every time you want to surrender, because surrender always begins when meaning fades. Mental toughness is not some stoic detachment from emotion. It is the ability to feel every emotion, fear, doubt, despair, and still take action, because something larger than pain is pulling you forward. Without that, toughness becomes a facade, but with it, you become unstoppable. You become the kind of person who doesn't just survive storms, but walks through them with eyes open, shoulders back, and a fire inside that no amount of suffering can extinguish. That fire is meaning, and it is the foundation of unbreakable strength. Mental toughness is not a trait you're born with. It is a character forged in the furnace of adversity, sharpened by discipline, and sustained by purpose. It is the internal architecture of a person who refuses to be conquered, not by pain, not by failure, not by fear. We've been led to believe that resilience is about inspiration, about feeling motivated in the face of difficulty. But it's not. It's about training your mind and soul to carry weight that would otherwise break you. It's not about denying hardship, it's about standing up and choosing to carry it with integrity. At its core, mental toughness begins with responsibility. Until you take full ownership of your life, your thoughts, your actions, your outcomes, you will always be at the mercy of the world. Life is unfair and it's brutal, but the moment you say, "This is mine to handle," you begin the transformation from victim to warrior. That shift in perspective is not comfortable and it's not easy. It requires brutal honesty, humility, and the willingness to do the hard things consistently, but it is the only path to real power. Ownership is not a burden, it's the gateway to freedom. Then comes the battle against inner chaos. You cannot be mentally tough if your mind is in disorder. If your thoughts are undisciplined, your values unclear, and your habits unstructured, you will be overwhelmed the moment pressure hits. The world is full of noise, and if you haven't brought order to your inner world, that noise becomes your master. You begin by conquering what's close, your environment, your routine, your language. These aren't small details, they are the battlefield where discipline is won or lost. Order is not about rigidity, it's about clarity, and clarity is strength when everything else turns to fog. Finally, without meaning, nothing holds. You may endure for a while through grit alone, but when the suffering becomes deep, when loss, grief, or betrayal enters, you will only withstand it if there is something greater pulling you forward. Meaning is not a luxury, it is the anchor in chaos, the fuel in exhaustion, and the compass in darkness. Find your meaning, build your life around it. Let it inform your decisions, your sacrifices, and your suffering. Because when the storm comes, and it will, meaning is what allows you not just to survive, but to endure with honor, to rebuild with purpose, and to emerge unbreakable. That is the essence of mental toughness. Not brute force, not bravado, but the quiet, relentless, focused will to stand your ground when nothing else is standing. Thank you for standing with me through these words, not just to listen, but to reflect, to challenge yourself, and to consider what kind of strength lies within you. If even one line stayed with you, if one truth lit a fire inside you, then this time has not been wasted. We live in an age that desperately needs resilient minds and courageous hearts. Be one of them. Stand up when it's hard, speak when it's risky, endure when it hurts. Take what you've heard today and do something with it. Don't just let it fade with the applause or the silence. Use it. Apply it. Sharpen yourself with it, because the world isn't waiting, it's demanding, and it needs people like you to show up strong, ordered, disciplined, and full of meaning. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. And most of all, thank you for your courage to confront the hard road. Goodbye, and may you walk it with fire in your eyes and strength in your step.